Did you know there are 10 hidden pitfalls of remote working? And they can drastically impact you and your business. No? Well, stay tuned. Hi entrepreneurs, I'm Vicky Brown, and you're in the right place if you want to engage your team, boost your business, and grow your leadership muscle. Now, if you're anything like me, you had no idea remote working would last so long or become such a mainstay part of business life. And sure, we've done a mighty fine job of adapting. But as the new reality drags on and people morph from just working at their home to working from a friend's vacation home or an Airbnb or their parents' home in a different state or a host of other configurations, the challenges multiply as well and the questions for employers get more significant. Now, of course, you've probably already been thinking about communication and how to keep everyone engaged and productive while they're remote. But today I'm going to give you the first of 10 areas I bet you haven't thought of yet. By the way, it's a pretty good-sized list, so we'll cover the second half in next week's episode. When we think of remote working, we generally think of the employee working from their home or home office. But with the frequent stay-at-home orders, people have begun to design their quarantine environment to reflect how they want to get through this period. That means some are forming social bubbles and quarantine pods, meaning getting a few people together and agreeing to quarantine together. Now, as a result, vacation home rentals are becoming a really popular option. On the other hand, some people are electing to go home and work from their parents' house, or they just want to go to a different area where the perceived risk of infection may be lower. Or maybe they just want to be more comfy or away from roommates or whatever. What does all this moving around mean for you? Well, for one thing, now you have employees working in different states, and that opens up a whole new can of worms for you as a business. With employees in other states, you may have accidentally become a multi-state employer, and that can trigger a host of issues. Different states may have different overtime rules and minimum wage levels, and this isn't limited to overtime eligible employees. States can also set minimum wages for exempt-level workers. And also, when an employee has overtime, when that kicks in, that's usually defined by state laws as well. So for instance, in New York, overtime doesn't happen until the employee has worked more than 40 hours in a week. But in California, while yes, they would be eligible for overtime after 40 hours in a week, they would also be eligible after working 8 hours in a day. And you'd also have to keep an eye on the rules around meal and rest breaks. And while we're talking about pay, some states have state-specific requirements around the information that's required on a pay stub. For instance, New Mexico and Texas, among others, require a written pay stub, while states such as Florida don't require a pay stub at all. California requires that all pay rates have to be shown on the pay stub. And in New York, all pay stubs have to show the amount of sick leave that's been accrued by your employee. Sick leave is another issue that's state-specific. During the last few years, states have been on a tear in establishing paid sick leave programs. Arizona, Washington, D.C., Maine, New Jersey, and Nevada, those are just some of the states with paid sick leave laws, and they're all different. Aside from that, some states even have different laws for different cities or counties. New York, California, and Illinois, they fall into that category. Santa Monica's leave requirement is different from San Francisco's, which is different from Oakland's, which is different from San Diego's, and on and on. And it's not just sick leave. Other types of leave may be regulated by the state as well. California, for instance, offers up to 4 months of pregnancy disability leave. Now that's very different from Texas, which doesn't have anything. Moving on to training. Again, many states have different anti-harassment training regulations, and depending on how long your remote worker is working from a given state, they may well trigger that state's training requirement, meaning you'll have to provide training that meets the requirements and are compliant as far as content. One of the sneakiest pitfalls of having your employee working from another state is that that state might come knocking on your door with a notification that you're now doing business in that state and owe business taxes. I know this is the soul-crushing part, the possibility of a multi-state tax burden. And believe me, it can happen so easily. An employee becomes disabled and applies for disability in the quote-unquote new state, or you have to let them go or furlough them, and they apply for unemployment in that state. The employment-related and business-related state agencies, well, they share information precisely for this reason. So it can and does happen all the time. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Well, first of all, make sure your handbook clearly states that employees must immediately make the company aware of any change in working location. Because if you don't know where they are, you can't assess the possible risk. You may even want to go as far as prohibiting work from some locations without obtaining prior approval. Next, once you know where everyone is, carefully review the laws and requirements of those other locations. Now, you may need the help of an HR professional or attorney for this particular one, because you don't want to miss anything. Finally, adapt your processes to comply with the various regulations. Now, next week, we'll have a chat about security, insurance, and other lurking pitfalls of remote work. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe and share. And if you're struggling with how to get your business off the ground and what comes next, check out the Leader's Journey Business Builder. I designed this completely free video series to help you with figuring out who your customer is and where to find her, how to sell without selling, how to package and deliver your service, and much, much more. Check it out by using the Business Builder link below in the description. And remember, your inspired leadership is the secret sauce to having a high-performance team and a wildly successful business you'll love. I'll see you next time on Leader's Journey.